The alien girl labeled Cursed chose a human as her guardian in the year 2385. Humanity had spread across the stars, forming colonies on countless planets. As humans ventured deeper into the galaxy, they encountered alien civilizations, some friendly, others not so much. Among these civilizations, the Zelvorians stood out, an ancient race with advanced technology, but one that carried a dark secret. The Zelvorians were ruled by a powerful royal family, but there was a curse that plagued their bloodline. This curse, as the stories went, caused destruction wherever it touched. Entire cities had crumbled, vast areas of land had been scorched, and lives were lost whenever the cursed heir, Princess Ariella, was near. The people of Zelver feared her, not because she was evil, but because of the chaos her mere presence could bring. Ariella had grown up in isolation, hidden away from the world that feared her. Her own people had rejected her, labeling her a harbinger of doom. For years, she had been kept in the palace, watched over by guards who whispered about her curse behind closed doors. They told tales of how she had caused the downfall of entire colonies, how she had brought nothing but disaster wherever she went. Ariella had heard the stories, but they were not the truth. The truth was far more complicated. Ariella had not asked for the curse. She had not wanted the power that lay dormant within her. She had been born with it, an ancient energy that coursed through her veins, unpredictable and untamed. But what her people did not know was that she was not the curse. They feared her because they did not understand her. And that fear had driven her to the brink of despair. She was alone in her thoughts, trapped within the walls of a palace that felt more like a prison. Her family had abandoned her, her people had condemned her, and she was left with only one option, to escape. But there was another problem. The Zelvorian government had made it clear, if she left, they would hunt her down. Their soldiers, their bounty hunters, they would stop at nothing to capture her and bring her back. Ariella had no allies, no one who would stand by her side, or so she thought. Far across the galaxy, on a colony far removed from the power struggles of the Zelvorian Empire, there was a man named Eli Jackson. He was a simple human pilot who had long since given up on the idea of heroism or greatness. Eli had been on many missions, flying through the stars on countless jobs, transporting cargo, scouting planets, and fixing ships. His life was routine, and he had no ambitions beyond getting by. Eli had seen his share of alien species, and he was no stranger to conflict. He had watched as humanity slowly integrated into the galactic community, dealing with hostile species, political intrigues, and strange technologies. But despite all of this, he never thought he would be part of something bigger. He was just another cog in the machine. But everything changed the day Ariella arrived. It was an ordinary morning when Eli was working on a damaged shuttle, fixing its engine. He was alone, his hands greasy from the work, when a small shuttle landed nearby. He didn't think much of it at first. Shuttles came and went all the time. But something felt different this time. The air around him seemed to shift, as though something unseen was moving through it. When the hatch of the shuttle opened, Eli's eyes widened in surprise. Standing there in a cloak of silver and blue was a figure unlike any he had ever seen. It was a woman, but not a human woman. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, with a soft blue glow beneath the surface. Her hair was a cascade of silver that shimmered in the sunlight. And her eyes, they were like nothing Eli had ever seen before. They were ancient, filled with wisdom, sorrow, and a touch of fear. She was beautiful in a way that seemed impossible, like a being made of light itself. But it was not just her appearance that caught Eli's attention, it was the energy that seemed to pulse around her. He could feel it, a strange, dangerous force that seemed to hum in the air. The woman's voice broke through his thoughts. "Are you Eli Jackson?" Eli blinked, trying to make sense of the situation. "Yeah, that's me. Who are you?" "I am Princess Ariella of the Zelvorian Empire," she said, her voice soft but filled with a quiet strength. "I need your help." Eli's brow furrowed. "I don't know who you are, lady, but I don't get involved in whatever you're asking." Ariella lowered her head, and for a moment, Eli saw something that made his heart ache. It wasn't anger or arrogance, it was fear, pure, raw fear. Ariella was afraid of something, and it wasn't just the bounty hunters she had fled from. "I know you don't trust me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But please, I have nowhere else to go. I need protection." Eli crossed his arms, unsure of what to make of her request. "Protection? You're an alien princess. You probably have a whole army to protect you." She shook her head, her silver hair catching the light. Not anymore. My people, my own family, they've rejected me. They say I am cursed, that I bring death and destruction wherever I go. They've cast me aside, and now they want to kill me. Eli's eyes narrowed. Why? Because of what I am, Ariella replied, her voice trembling. Because of the curse in my blood, I can't control it. I don't know how to. I've never known peace, never known what it's like to be accepted. But you are different. I felt something when I saw you, a connection. I need you to protect me. Only you can help me. Eli took a step back, unsure of what to say. He didn't want to get involved in anything that would put his life at risk. He had enough problems of his own. But there was something in Ariella's eyes, a vulnerability, a desperation that made him hesitate. I can't, Eli said, shaking his head. I'm just a mechanic. I'm not the person you need. There are others out there who— No, she interrupted softly. There is no one else. You are the one I need, Eli. I don't have much time. Eli stared at her, his mind racing. He didn't know what she was talking about or why she would choose him of all people. But there was something in her voice, something that reached deep into him, urging him to take a chance. Fine, Eli said, finally. I'll help you. But you have to promise me one thing, no more running, no more hiding. We'll face this together, whatever it is. Ariella's face softened, a flicker of relief passing through her. Thank you, she whispered. As the two of them stood there, a strange sense of fate settled over Eli. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing. His life was about to change in ways he could never have imagined. And so, their journey began. Eli had never imagined that his life would take such a dramatic turn. Just a few days ago, he had been a mechanic on a small colony, fixing broken equipment and minding his own business. Now, here he was, standing beside an alien princess, trying to make sense of what was happening. The days that followed were a blur. Ariella, the Zelvorian princess, had insisted that they leave the colony immediately. Her enemies, the bounty hunters sent by her people, were closing in. She had explained that her curse, or rather the power within her, made her a target for anyone who sought to control or destroy her. The Zelvorian Empire was on the brink of civil war, and Ariella was caught in the middle of it all. They didn't have much time. The moment Ariella had made the decision to trust Eli, she had known there was no turning back. Her people would stop at nothing to find her. And yet, despite the urgency, Eli couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. He had never been involved in anything like this before, and the weight of the situation was beginning to sink in. How was he supposed to protect her when he didn't even fully understand what he was protecting her from? As they traveled through the galaxy, Eli did his best to keep a low profile. Ariella's presence seemed to attract attention everywhere they went. Their first stop was a small, forgotten outpost, a place where the shadows of the past seemed to linger. There, Ariella shared more about her life, her past, and the curse that haunted her. The curse is not what they think it is, Ariella explained one evening as they sat around a small fire in a deserted hangar. It's not a mark of evil or destruction. It's a force that I cannot control. The power inside me is ancient, too ancient. I was born with it, and I've been told that it's my destiny to either control it or perish by it. Eli watched her closely, trying to understand. But what is it exactly? What kind of power are we talking about here? Ariella sighed, her silver hair glowing softly in the firelight. I don't know, Eli. It's different for every Zelvorian who carries it. Some say it's a gift, a weapon. Others say it's a curse, something that can never be tamed. When I was young, I could feel it, this energy inside me growing stronger every day. I've had dreams of destruction, of entire worlds falling apart. But none of that is what I want. I don't want to hurt anyone. I just want to be free. Eli was quiet for a long moment, taking in her words. He could sense the truth in them, the sincerity in her voice. Ariella wasn't lying. She wasn't trying to manipulate him or deceive him. She was just a young woman trapped in a situation she couldn't control. I can't promise that I can fix this, Eli said slowly, looking into her eyes. But I'll help you. We'll figure it out together. You don't have to go through this alone. Ariella's face softened, and for the first time, Eli saw a glimpse of hope in her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. You're the only one who's ever said that. The next few days were filled with travel and planning. They hopped from one small colony to another, staying just long enough to make repairs or gather supplies. Each time they arrived at a new place, Eli noticed the way people looked at Ariella. It wasn't just curiosity, it was fear. The same fear that had haunted her for her entire life. One night, as they docked at a small trading station, things took a dangerous turn. Eli was walking through the station's narrow corridors when he felt a presence behind him. He spun around just in time to see a group of men step out from the shadows, their eyes cold and determined. They wore the uniform of the Zelvorian military, and Eli knew immediately what that meant. Bounty hunters. Before he could react, one of the men spoke. "We're looking for someone," he said, his voice flat and menacing. "A princess." "You wouldn't happen to have seen her, would you?" Eli's heart raced. He had to think fast. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said, trying to sound casual even though his mind was racing. He could feel the tension in the air, the weight of the danger hanging over them. If they found Ariella, it would be all over. The men didn't seem convinced. One of them stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. "Don't lie to us. We know she's here, and we'll search every inch of this station until we find her." Eli's mind raced. He had to stall, buy them more time. "Look, I don't know anything about a princess," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "But you might want to check the cargo hold. We just unloaded some supplies there." The men exchanged a look, clearly suspicious but willing to take the bait. "We'll check it out," one of them said, motioning for the others to follow him. As the men walked away, Eli let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. But there was no time to waste. He had to find Ariella and get her out of there before it was too late. He turned quickly, heading back to the ship, his mind racing. When he found her, she was already in the cockpit, looking out at the stars. "We have to leave," Eli said urgently. "Now." Ariella looked at him, her expression calm but resolute. "I know," she said softly. "I felt them coming. I've been running for so long, Eli. I'm tired of running." Eli didn't say anything, just nodded. He knew that this wasn't just about escaping anymore. It was about finding a way to stop the cycle, to break free from the fear and the destruction that had followed Ariella for her entire life. As they lifted off from the station, Eli glanced at Ariella, who was staring out the window, her face set in determination. She wasn't just running away anymore. She was choosing to fight, to take control of her own destiny. And for the first time, Eli felt like he was right where he was meant to be. They had no clear plan, no solid destination, but one thing was certain. Their journey had only just begun. The stars stretched out before them, a vast sea of endless possibilities. Eli was focused on flying the ship, but his thoughts were scattered. They had left the trading station behind, but he knew it wouldn't be long before the bounty hunters caught up with them. The idea of Ariella's curse still weighed heavily on his mind. What was the truth? What kind of power did she really have? And how much of it could she control? The feeling of uncertainty gnawed at him, but Ariella seemed calm, almost peaceful. She sat in the co-pilot's seat beside him, her silver hair shimmering in the dim light of the cockpit. She was staring out the window, lost in thought. Eli glanced at her, his curiosity getting the best of him. "How are you holding up?" he asked, his voice softer than usual. Ariella turned to look at him, her eyes reflecting the stars outside. "I'm fine," she said, her voice steady. "It's just... This has been my life for so long, Eli, running, hiding, trying to understand what I am, what this power is inside me. It's exhausting." Eli nodded, his hands tight on the controls. "You don't have to do it alone anymore," he said. "I'm with you." Ariella smiled faintly. "Thank you. I never thought I'd find someone who would be willing to help me, especially not a human." He gave a small shrug. "You'd be surprised what humans are capable of when we decide to do something." There was a silence between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was as if, in those few words, they had shared something real, something unspoken. But Eli couldn't shake the feeling that things were about to get a lot more complicated. The next few days were filled with tension. They couldn't stay in one place for too long, not with the Zelvorian bounty hunters on their trail. Ariella seemed to know this, but she never once complained. Instead, she focused on finding ways to understand her curse, researching ancient Zelvorian texts and artifacts that might help her control the power within her. It wasn't long before they came across an old research station, abandoned and forgotten. The place looked like it had been left behind in a hurry. Eli landed the ship in the docking bay, and they both stepped out, unsure of what they would find. The station was quiet, eerie even. The halls were dimly lit, and the air felt stale, as if it had been sitting in the same place for years. But Ariella's eyes lit up when she saw the old computers and data terminals. This place, she explained, had once been used by the Zelvorian royal family to study the ancient powers passed down through their bloodline. It was the perfect place to learn more about her curse. They spent hours inside the station, digging through old files and documents. Eli tried to stay out of the way, but his curiosity got the better of him. As he wandered through the dark corridors, he came across something that caught his attention, a strange symbol on the wall, unlike anything he had seen before. It was a circle with a jagged line cutting through the middle and rays of light radiating outward. It was ancient, etched into the stone as if it had been there for centuries. Ariella came over when she saw him staring at it. She recognized the symbol immediately. This is the mark of the Zelvorian royal family, she said softly. It represents the power that flows through our blood, the curse in a way. Eli looked at her surprised. That's what's inside you, Ariella nodded. Yes, but there's more to it than just the curse. This mark symbolizes the balance between creation and destruction. The curse isn't just destructive. It's a power that can be used for good if controlled. But I don't know how to control it. No one has been able to teach me. The Zelvorian people abandoned me before I could learn. Eli studied the symbol for a long moment, then looked at Ariella. But you want to learn, right? You don't want to keep running. Ariella smiled slightly. That's why we're here. I need to understand this power. I need to know how to control it if I can't. She trailed off, and Eli could hear the unspoken fear in her voice. If she couldn't control the power, it would destroy her and everyone around her. They spent the next few days in the research station, trying to make sense of the ancient texts. Eli helped in his own way, translating some of the more difficult parts of the documents. It wasn't easy, but they made progress. Ariella was learning more about the power inside her, about how it had been passed down through the generations of Zelvorian rulers. But the more they learned, the more they realized how dangerous it was. The power inside Ariella was ancient, tied to the very core of the Zelvorian people. If she wanted to control it, she would need more than just knowledge. She would need to understand herself, to embrace the darkness within her without letting it consume her. It was a difficult lesson to learn, and it wasn't long before Ariella found herself struggling with the energy inside her again. It wasn't something she could force, it had to come naturally. But the more she tried, the more chaotic the power became. One evening, as they sat in the ship, the energy inside Ariella flared up. The walls around them shook, and the ship's systems flickered. Ariella gasped, clutching the edge of her seat as her eyes glowed bright with the power that surged within her. Eli jumped up, rushing to her side. Ariella, what's happening? I can't control it, she cried, her voice filled with panic. It's too much, I don't know what to do. Eli grabbed her hands, holding them firmly, trying to steady her. Focus, Ariella, you can do this. Just breathe, don't fight it. But the power was relentless. The energy inside her pulsed with raw, untamed force, and the ship began to shake more violently. Eli could feel the heat rising in the air, the pressure building. Ariella, listen to me, Eli shouted. You have to calm down, you can't let the power control you. You're stronger than this. For a moment there was nothing but chaos. But then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the power began to recede. The ship settled, and the glow in Ariella's eyes faded. She collapsed back into her seat, breathing heavily. I'm sorry, she whispered, her voice trembling. I didn't mean to. It's okay, Eli interrupted, kneeling beside her. You're okay, we're okay. But inside, he knew that they weren't okay. Ariella's powers were dangerous, unpredictable. They had to find a way to control them, or else they would never be safe. The stars outside the ship's window shimmered like distant diamonds, casting a soft glow over the cockpit. The ship was silent except for the occasional hum of the engine. Eli sat in the pilot's seat, his eyes fixed on the star-filled void ahead. He had always been a man of action, someone who took charge, fixed problems, and moved on, but everything was different now. Nothing about this mission was simple. Nothing about Ariella's curse was simple. Ariella sat beside him, her posture straight but her expression troubled. She had spent the last few days in deep thought, reading through the ancient Zelvorian texts again and again, but she was still no closer to understanding how to control the power that surged through her. The fear of losing control was always with her. Every time her emotions flared, the energy within her seemed to react, threatening to destroy everything around her. How are you feeling? Eli asked, his voice softer than usual. Ariella's gaze shifted toward him, and for a moment she didn't answer. She simply looked at him, her eyes reflecting the stars. I'm scared, she finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know if I can control it, Eli. I don't know if I'm strong enough to do what's needed. Eli didn't answer right away. He could hear the fear in her voice, the same fear that had haunted her for as long as she could remember. He didn't have the answers for her, but he knew one thing: she wasn't alone. Not anymore. "We'll figure it out," Eli said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "You're not alone in this. I'm with you." Ariella nodded, but the worry in her eyes remained. She didn't know how long she could keep pretending that everything would be okay. There were moments when she felt like she was just waiting for the power inside her to break free and destroy everything, and it terrified her. The next few days passed in a blur of travel and searching. They moved from one planet to another, always staying just a few steps ahead of the bounty hunters who had been sent by the Zelvorian government. Every time they thought they had escaped, more hunters appeared, relentless and determined. But Ariella was not just running from them. She was running from herself, from the power that lay inside her, waiting to be unleashed. Eli did what he could to protect her, but there were moments when even he felt helpless. He couldn't understand the power she carried, couldn't grasp the weight of the curse that had defined her entire life. He wasn't a soldier or a scientist. He was just a mechanic, a man who had always been good with his hands but never good at handling things like this. And yet, despite everything, he couldn't bring himself to leave her. Every time he looked at Ariella, he saw someone who wasn't just a princess or a curse. He saw a young woman who had been misunderstood her whole life, someone who was doing her best to survive in a universe that had turned its back on her. One evening, as they made their way through a crowded spaceport, they encountered something unexpected. The moment they landed, Eli noticed the tension in the air. Something was off. There was a strange energy surrounding them, a sense of being watched. He looked around, but there was no immediate threat. It wasn't until they walked further into the port that they saw it, the Zelvorian soldiers standing near the entrance, scanning the crowd. Eli tensed. The last thing they needed was a confrontation with the military. "We need to leave," he whispered, grabbing Ariella's arm and pulling her toward the nearest alley. Ariella's face was pale, but her steps were steady. She had grown used to the feeling of being hunted. "They're looking for me, Eli," she said quietly. "They know I'm here." Eli quickened his pace, his heart pounding in his chest. They needed to get to the ship and leave before they were caught. But the soldiers weren't the only ones watching them. From the shadows, another figure emerged, a man with dark hair and sharp eyes. He moved quickly, his steps calculated as he approached them. "Stay close," Eli muttered, pulling Ariella behind him as the man stepped into their path. The man's expression was calm, but there was a sense of danger in his gaze. He wasn't a soldier, but there was something about him that made Eli uneasy. The man's eyes flicked between Eli and Ariella before settling on the princess. "You're Ariella, aren't you?" the man said, his voice smooth, almost as if he knew exactly who she was. Ariella froze, her eyes wide with fear. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice sharp but uncertain. The man smiled, though it didn't reach his eyes. "I'm here to help," he said. "Or perhaps I should say I'm here to offer you a choice." Ariella glanced at Eli, who was now standing between her and the stranger, his stance protective. "What choice?" Ariella asked, her voice cautious. The man stepped closer, his movements slow and deliberate. "You've been running from your own people for a long time. But running doesn't change anything. It only delays what's coming. If you want to stop being a pawn in their game, if you want to control your destiny instead of being controlled, you need to come with me." Eli took a step forward, his hand on the blaster at his side. "I don't know who you are, but I don't trust you," he said, his voice firm. "Ariella not going anywhere with you?" The man raised his hands in mock surrender. "I don't need your trust," he said, his eyes narrowing. "But Ariella needs mine." Ariella's heart raced. Who was this man, and why was he offering her a way out of the endless cycle of fear and flight? "What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The man smiled again, though it was colder this time. "I want to help you unlock the power within you. I want to teach you how to control it. If you don't learn to control it, you will destroy yourself, and your people will destroy you too." Eli stepped in front of Ariella, blocking her view of the man. "And why should we trust you?" he demanded. The man didn't answer right away. Instead, he took a small device from his pocket and pressed a button. A holographic display appeared in front of him, showing an image of Ariella's homeworld, Zelver. The planet was surrounded by ships, as if preparing for war. "You see," the man said, his voice low, "the Zelvorian government has a plan to control you. They'll stop at nothing to get you back. But if you want to survive, if you want to break free from their grasp, you need to learn to control your power. I can help you do that. Ariella looked at the image, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and anger. I don't want to be controlled anymore, she said, her voice trembling with emotion. The man nodded as if he had been waiting for her response. Then come with me, you don't have to run anymore. I can give you the tools to take control of your own future. Eli felt a surge of protectiveness, but he also knew that this might be their only chance to stop the endless cycle of fleeing and hiding. Ariella needed help. She couldn't keep running forever. Ariella looked at Eli, searching his face for any sign of doubt. Finally, she spoke, her voice quiet but steady. What do you think, Eli? Should we trust him? Eli hesitated. The stakes were higher than ever, and he couldn't ignore the reality of their situation. But deep down, he knew one thing: he would stand by Ariella no matter what. We'll take the risk, Eli said, his voice firm. And with that, the decision was made. The ship moved silently through the vastness of space, the stars blinking like distant lights in an endless night. Ariella stood by the window, staring at the stars as they drifted past. The silence around her was almost peaceful, but inside she felt a storm. The last few days had been a whirlwind of decisions, choices, and secrets. And now she had come to a point where she couldn't turn back. Eli sat in the cockpit, his eyes on the control panel, but his mind was far from the ship. He kept thinking about the man they had met, the one who had offered them a way out of the endless chase. The man had promised to help Ariella control her power, to teach her how to stop the curse from destroying her. But could they trust him? Could they trust anyone? Eli didn't know the answer. He had always believed in relying on his instincts, on his ability to figure things out as they went. But this was different. Ariella wasn't just any person. She was the heir to the Zelvorian throne, the one who carried the power of destruction within her. If they were going to survive, if they were going to stop running, they needed to find a way to unlock that power and use it for something good. Ariella turned away from the window and walked toward him, her footsteps soft against the floor. We need to talk, she said, her voice steady but laced with uncertainty. Eli glanced up at her, his eyes meeting hers. I know, he replied, his tone serious. I've been thinking about what that guy said, what he's offering us. Ariella sat down next to him, her fingers playing nervously with the edge of her sleeve. I don't know if I can trust him, Eli. I don't know if I can trust anyone anymore, but I can't keep living like this. I can't keep running, hiding, pretending like everything's okay when it's not. Eli turned to face her fully, his expression softening. He understood her fear. He saw it in her eyes every time they ran, every time the power inside her threatened to break free. I get it, he said quietly, but you don't have to do it alone, you've got me. Ariella smiled, but it was faint, like a flicker of light in the dark. I know, and I'm grateful for that, but you can't protect me forever. You saw what happened on the station. I can't control it. The power inside me is too strong, too unpredictable. Eli reached out and gently placed his hand on hers, offering what comfort he could. We'll figure it out, we always do. But deep inside, Eli knew they were running out of time. The Zelvorian government wasn't the only one looking for them. There were other forces at play, forces that wanted Ariella's power for themselves, and they would stop at nothing to get it. Days passed, and the tension between them grew. Ariella spent hours each day meditating, trying to calm her mind and connect with the power inside her. She had tried to understand it for years, but every time she thought she was close, the energy would slip through her fingers out of control. She could feel it, this deep, overwhelming force that wanted to explode, that wanted to tear everything apart. But she didn't want that. She didn't want to be the destroyer. Eli watched her, feeling helpless. He didn't know how to help her. He wasn't a warrior, a magician, or even a scholar. He was just a man, a mechanic who had gotten swept up in something much bigger than he had ever expected. But he couldn't walk away. Not now, not after everything they had been through. One evening, as the ship traveled deeper into the unknown reaches of the galaxy, they received a signal. It was a distress call, an encrypted message from the leader of the Zelvorian rebels. The message was short, but it was clear. We know where you are. We have a plan. Meet us at the coordinates in the next system. It's your chance to finally take control of your destiny, Ariella. Eli looked at Ariella, his heart pounding. He knew what this meant. It was a risk, a huge risk, but it was also their best chance. The Zelvorian government had been after Ariella for so long, and if they didn't act now, they might never get another opportunity. Are you sure about this? Eli asked, his voice filled with concern. We don't know who these people are. What if it's a trap? Ariella stared at the screen for a long time, her mind racing. She had never been one to trust easily, but the rebels had sent them a message. They knew who she was, what she could do. And if they were willing to offer their help, then maybe, just maybe, they could finally put an end to the chase. "I'm sure," she said, her voice steady, her decision made. "I've spent my whole life running, Eli, but I'm not running anymore. I need to learn how to control this power. If I can't, then everything I've feared will come true. The Zelvorian Empire will destroy me, and I don't want that. I want to fight back. I want to stop the cycle." Eli looked at her, his expression softening. "I'm with you," he said, his voice firm. "Let's do this." They set a course for the coordinates. The ship hummed as it jumped into hyperspace, moving faster than light, racing toward the unknown. As they traveled, Eli felt a strange sense of calm. He didn't know what was waiting for them at the other end, but for the first time in a long while, he felt like they were on the right path. When they arrived at the designated location, the ship was surrounded by nothing but the darkness of space. But there, floating in the distance, was a small rebel base, hidden within an asteroid belt. It was well concealed, its defenses strong enough to keep anyone from finding it, even the most advanced military forces. They docked at the base, and Ariella felt a sense of nervous excitement. This was it. This was the moment that would decide everything. If the rebels were truly on their side, they would help her unlock her power, teach her how to control it. But if they were lying, if they were using her for their own gain, then there would be no turning back. As they stepped off the ship, they were met by a group of Zelvorian rebels. Their leader, a tall, scarred man with sharp eyes, stepped forward. "Ariella," he said, his voice low and commanding. "We've been waiting for you." Ariella's heart raced, but she stood tall, her posture strong. "I'm here," she said. "I need to learn how to control this power. I need your help." The leader nodded, his expression serious. "We can help you, but it won't be easy. The power inside you is dangerous. If you're not careful, it will consume you. But we've studied the ancient ways. We know what it takes to unlock the potential within you." Ariella looked at Eli, who gave her an encouraging nod. This was it, the moment that would change everything. Over the next few weeks, Ariella trained with the rebels, learning to focus her mind to harness the power within her. It wasn't easy. Every time she thought she had it under control, the energy would slip away, wild and untamed. But she kept trying. She didn't give up. She couldn't. And slowly, little by little, she began to make progress. The power inside her started to respond, not with destruction, but with control. She could feel it, like a wave in the ocean that she could ride instead of being swept away by it. One day, as they stood on a training platform, Ariella focused, her eyes closed as she felt the power surge within her. For the first time, she was in control. The energy responded to her thoughts, flowing through her like a river that no longer raged out of control. When she opened her eyes, she saw the energy swirl around her, glowing bright and steady, but not dangerous, not destructive. It was a force of creation, a force she could now control. Eli stood by her side, watching her with pride. "You did it," he said, his voice filled with admiration. Ariella smiled, the weight of her fear lifting. "I did it." And in that moment she knew she wasn't cursed, she wasn't a destroyer. She was the key to a new future for herself, for her people, and for the galaxy. Together they would face whatever came next. And they would face it as equals, no longer running, no longer hiding, but fighting for what was right.